I guarantee you that the Nets-Hornets game will not be a 51-point margin. As we welcome in Isiah Thomas, Greg Anthony.
Have you seen the Hornets play defense?
Greg, it will not be a 51-point game.
Okay, I'm just putting it out there.
All right. Isiah, go ahead. Where do you want to go with this one here?
I don't, I really don't know where to go because, I've never seen anything like this in the regular season, particularly early in the regular season. And as I said at halftime, this isn't about strategy. Right. This is about professionalism from the players. This is about energy from the players. This is about enthusiasm. This is about a commitment to go out and compete. I didn't see any of that from the Clippers players today. Now, if we wanted to talk about, the strategy wasn't right from a coaching standpoint, the motivation wasn't there from a coaching standpoint, maybe, but there's some things that the players have to bring to the game in order for the coaching staff to be able to implement. And the players didn't bring that to the game today.
As you see on the screen, the 50-point margin was the largest deficit at halftime in the history of the NBA, the shot clock era. Here's, to put it in perspective for you, the list. And this tops it all. We saw history today on this Sunday, the first Sunday in the regular season. And the Mavs, in fact, went up by as many as 57 at one point in the second half of this game. Just remarkable. I want to do my best to play devil's advocate. I'm going to try here, GA, for this one.
I want to hear this.
No Kawhi Leonard. Game started at 12:30 local time. You're coming off of two big emotional games against the Lakers on ring night. You're coming up against the Denver Nuggets the other night, the team that knocked you out of the playoffs after you blew a 3-1 lead. Mm-hmm. Is there any of that that's a valid excuse for why you fell behind by as many as 57 points?
No.
That's great. That's award-winning analysis.
Greg goes, yeah, I want to hear this.
Yeah, because, Zeke, first of all, no Kristaps Porzingis. Dallas is playing at 12:30. They're in the same boat.
Yep.
What you're supposed to be improved at is a weakness for them, or so they say in terms of rebounding. There really is no excuse for that kind of an effort. And what to me makes it even worse, as bad as it was, as historically bad as it was in the first half, you lost the second half. They lost the second half by a point.
Yep.
So that means they didn't even show enough pride to come out and at least let's go win this third quarter. Let's win the fourth quarter. Because I can guarantee what happens in a game like that, and Isiah knows it, when you go up 30, 40, the team that's up, it's actually harder to play then. And we're also talking about a team that's supposed to be a championship caliber team.
Right.
You have to factor that in. This isn't even with all due respect, this isn't Charlotte, this isn't in Indiana, right? This isn't a team that nobody's expecting to be there when it's all said and done with a legit chance to win it. So, and again, it's not that they lost. They lost by 51. They scored 27 points. It's, that's hard to do at this level. And again, Dallas, obviously they came out with some fight, but Dallas is not a great defensive team.
Right.
So, to me, and then the response of the second half, I actually would love to just hear the press conference. I want to hear what Ty Lue and the players are going to say, because that's going to be telling.
We will do our best to effort that. We will take you back out live to Staples Center to hear from Ty Lue. And again,
I want to hear from Stephen Ballmer, too. I want to hear from the owner.
Steve you're calling him. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he'll come on. We'll get him on the line right away. Again, we're leading you up for the next hour and 20 minutes, and we've got Nets, Hornets. A couple of notes on this game here from our researcher extraordinaire, Justin Nixon. Clippers, largest loss in franchise history. And we're talking about the Clippers. They've had some bad losses.
Yeah, they got some bad.
Yeah, 51 points, the largest loss in Clipper history. It is the second largest win in franchise history for the Mavericks. Let's go to the hardest working player, presented by Duluth Trading Company. Easy for me to say, huh? It is Luka Doncic. Let's flip the script here, Isiah, and talk about Luka the Don here. 24 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists.
Well, this is the reason why he's talked about as a potential MVP of our league, because he's doing it all. Not only is he putting pressure on the defense, he can assist, he puts it on time, on target. He's become a great leader for the Mavericks. You see him run the floor on the left-hand side, gets the N1, he's playing with enthusiasm. And then his patience, the 1-2, the dip of the shoulder, back out to the open man at the top of the three-point line. So he's very unselfish. He's giving. He's the perfect player that you want to play with as a leader of your team, as a young player on your team who has enthusiasm and, is showing that energy and that love to all his teammates. When they were winning, when he was on the bench, he was one of the biggest cheerleaders for the guys who were playing out on the floor. That says a lot. Those are things that you can't teach. Those are the intangibles. And that's why a lot of people have said that, hey, Luka will probably be one of the leading candidates, if not the MVP of the league this year.
And Isiah, it's a great point. I think ultimately it's going to be determined in terms of the MVP how his team does. If they're in a top 4, I think he's going to have a legit chance in that Western Conference. But if they come in on the back end of the postseason, I don't think then he's going to have an opportunity to win it. But as a basketball player, as a leader that you mentioned, and also he's one of those guys, he's easy to play with. He is a ball-dominant player, but he's unselfish. He's a quick decision maker. He's improving defensively, too, just watching, even in this game today, although it's not a good example to use, but he's getting deflections. He understands position defense, which is so vital today because nobody can guard anybody one-on-one with the rules that we have in today's game and the skill with the range of some of these guys. So it's important to understand positioning, getting your hand in the passing lanes. He's improving in that area, and he's as much fun to watch as a basketball player as anybody we have in the league. It is. He truly is a basketball savant, and it's hard to imagine that this guy is still under 22 years of age.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Luka, tremendous. Dallas avoids a 3-game losing streak. As I said, we're going to do our best to get back out the Staples Center. We have to hear from Ty Lue. We have to hear from some of the Clippers, all leading up to Nets-Hornets, which I'm guaranteeing will be a more competitive game, even though GA is skeptical. But we will bring you that at 7 o'clock Eastern. First, let's go back to Staples and hear from the winning coach, Rick Carlisle.
This was obviously our best effort and our best performance of all the games, preseason and regular season. We had some uneven effort in the first couple of games. Guys were aware of it. They knew the caliber of opponent today, and they just decided that they were going to, be the hardest playing team in the gym. And it was a great process, and obviously the result took care of itself. So we're fortunate that Leonard didn't play. That's obviously a big hit for them from a personnel standpoint, but just real proud of the way we responded to 2 really subpar games.
All right, Tim McMahon.
Rick, what goes through your mind when you look at the scoreboard and you're up 50 at halftime?
Well, we've got to, part of it, I talked to the team at halftime about it, is, we've got to establish a standard for ourselves just in terms of the level of collective force that we're going to play with and how consistent we're going to be. The first couple games, we didn't have that. At halftime, even with a huge margin, there was still an edge there, and we just got to maintain it. And look, it's an NBA season. There's going to be ups and downs. You're not always going to be at your best. But how you compete is something that, you wear. That's a badge that you wear every single game you play. And, today, our guys didn't allow each other to let down. And that's how it's going to have to be. This is a very unusual year. There's no crowds in the buildings. And so a lot of the impetus and the desire, has got to come from within from teams. And I'll give our guys credit. We had a very good practice yesterday. It was a practice that been on the road, away from families over Christmas, all that kind of stuff. On paper, it looks like kind of a walkthrough day, but we taped up and we had a live segment where we finally came to the realization that defensively doing things the hard way is the only way if you're going to be successful. And that's what started us out good. And look, Clippers didn't have a great night. That's obvious, but we had something to do with it.
All right, Brad.
Yeah, Rick, among the many things that went right today, Luka and Richardson both scored 13 points in the first quarter. According to your PR staff, that's first time that's happened to Mavericks in 20 years. Can you just want to ask you about how they're clicking at this point? Seems to be pretty smooth.
It's good. Look, they have an affinity for each other. They respect each other as players. There's chemistry that's building each game. Look, I don't think they would tell you that the stats mean anything to them in terms of, two guys scoring 13 points in a quarter. I mean, none of that stuff should matter. But, in your world, it's a tangible example of chemistry. And so, great, we'll roll with it, but Jay Rich has given us a really unique element. He has a leadership presence. He has a calming presence, on a team that can be emotional at times. And yet he's a tenacious competitor. And, he takes challenges defensively. And so, look, we love him. We really do. And really happy to have him with us.
Okay, Christoph.
Hello, Coach. Congratulations on the win. I would like to ask you, this game tonight, can you call it as the perfect game for the Dallas Mavericks? And how difficult is the next day after that game for you?
The next, what?
The next day, the next practice.
Well, the next practice is going to be not tomorrow, but the next day. And, we just talked a little bit about that. We'll get home this evening, a little later on, obviously. And tomorrow's an off day. We have not had an off day since it was a week ago today. And we usually go no longer than 4 or 5 days at the most without taking a full day off. Just, you need a mental recharge. You need to clear your head and get away from the game, So this has been a tough stretch, 2 national TV games, a lot of attention, a lot of focus, that kind of stuff. So tomorrow, everybody should clear their heads. We come back in with that'll be Tuesday. We need to have a good practice and get ready for Charlotte. Charlotte's a dangerous team. They got a bunch of guys that can run around and make shots. They play with a lot of offensive energy, and they're gritty on defense too. So, we got to try to get our record even back up, and it ain't going to be easy.
All right, the last one is for Beth Harris from AP. Beth, go ahead.
Yeah, hey Rick. Most teams will make a comeback in the second half, but you guys didn't even allow that, really.
Yeah. Look, it's a long season, and look, 50-point leads at halftime, are once in 2 decades in this league. They just don't have them very often. So we got to look at things big picture wise. First of all, we had 24 minutes left to play in the game. The second thing is the challenge of maintaining that level of competitiveness. And the third thing is, this in the first half, our guys established a standard for collective toughness and will that we need to find a way to maintain. And they need to find a way to hold each other accountable to maintain it. And the coaching staff's part of it too, but we're a family, and we've got to keep each other accountable. As I just mentioned to Tim, it's such a unique year with no fans in the buildings. In a sense, it's like there's no home games really, other than the fact that you may not be traveling. And you got a little ambient noise going on, from the sound system. So, the teams that can find it within themselves, to really compete on a really consistent basis are going to have the best chance of success.
Thanks for talking to you later.
That is Rick Carlisle after the historic victory. Clippers' worst loss in franchise history. They were down by as many as 57. We now must turn our attention to the Clippers side of things. Let's hear from the head coach of the Clippers, Ty Lue.
I know it's hard to come back from that kind of deficit, but is there something you could pinpoint early in the game that you could attribute the slow start to?
I think a couple of turnovers early. I think got them out in transition, got a couple of easy baskets. And then, we missed some shots and they got out in transition on us early. And just to have a lot of pop tonight, on both sides of the basketball. So you play on a team like this who, has a point guard like Luka who can dominate the game in different ways, and they have a lot of shooters around them. They're making shots like they were tonight, and you're not defending, you're not making shots. It's going to be a long night.
Thanks. Move over to Justin.
Hey, Coach. Is this an instance of one of those game tapes that you proverbially burn or just don't really go over? Or is this something where you can kind of go into the nuts and bolts and find little things to fine tune?
No, I think you throw it away. Just get back to what's been working and, how we've been working and working on. Like I said, tonight, our guys didn't have a lot of pop, didn't have a lot of pop on either end of the floor. And you can see it.
We'll go to Andrew Bryce.
Hey, Ty, with Paul, he's been responsible for quite a few turnovers early in the season. I guess, what do you want to do what do you want to see from him in terms of tightening up his handle? I know he contributed to some of those early turnovers.
Just being decisive what he wants to do. Not thinking, not guessing, just be aggressive and then making the right play like he's been doing. We just can't have the careless turnovers when, we're kind of like indecisive what we want to do. So we'll clean those up. And, I say it's early. And, he'll understand where people's out on the floor when we give him the space to play, and we'll get better at that.
You guys have obviously made a lot of great progress through the first two victories. Does this feel in any way like a step back, like you're going to have to kind of rebuild from a loss of this caliber, or do you look at this as like just an exception that you just throw away?
No, just an exception. It doesn't take away from what we've been doing and what we've been working on and how we're trying to get better each night. And like I said, it wasn't a lot of fight, a lot of pop tonight. And we know we'll have that come next game.
Thanks, Ty.
We have time for one more. We go to Miriam.
Errol, Gasol, all in the mix.
Miriam?
Yeah, here I am.
There you go.
Sorry about that. Does playing in an empty arena when you fall so far behind, does that hurt more? Just sort of lacking that energy in the building?
It could. No excuse though. We all have to play the same way and be able to adapt. So I just think we got to a slow start early and then just kind of snowball from there.
Hey, Paul. Coach, ugly game, as you know. Coach Lue referenced you guys didn't have the pop coming into this game or throughout the game. How do you ensure, as one of the leaders on the team, that you develop this pop for Wednesday night?
I take full responsibility. It's a tough game coming from Christmas. I enjoyed my Christmas day. I enjoyed my Christmas day yesterday. Today just popped up on me a little too fast. I'll take full ownership of that, of coming out and being prepared to play today. Be a different situation come next game, and, we'll be ready. Make sure our group will be ready.
Thanks.
Canty, you can go ahead.
PG, for you as a veteran player, how do you maintain this team together as one of the leaders? And how do you process this loss, even though it just won a game, so you guys can continue playing as the first two games that you guys started this season?
It's not that big of a deal. Yeah, we got our butts kicked today. But, you know, it's one game. I think we'll just take what we need to take away from today and go to the next one. We wasn't ready today. We wasn't prepared, not from the plan, but just from us being ready to go. And that's on me. And so, you know, we'll be ready for the next game. You know, it's one game. It's not like we lose or we get 3 L's, we're losing by 50 points. One game.
We'll move over to Andrew. You can go ahead, Andrew.
Hey, Paul, there are a couple instances in that first quarter that I'm guessing you'd like to have back, a couple passes that get intercepted and they lead to quick points. What do you feel like you have to do when you evaluate yourself to cut down some turnovers this season?
I think just valuing the possession. So all I got to do is just value the possession. You know, and you know, just sometimes having more of a aggressive mentality at all times. It's just what I got to just carry into every game.
Thanks. We'll go over to Miriam.
Hey, Paul. Wondering if playing in an arena without fans and having no energy, like the lack of energy, is especially weird when you're down that far. And then also just kind of looked at Serge was still kind of trying to work with the kids on the bench. What did you see from that?
Yeah, I mean, it's still a ball game to be played, and it's still our duty to help the younger guys. You know, try to help them learn something in the situations in the minutes that they were playing. It's all about building. We understood that, you know, we gave a poor performance, but the young guys still have a lot to learn, and it was more so about helping them. And then, I'm sorry, what was the first part of that question?
Just if playing in an arena without any fans and having that lack of energy is especially weird, or I guess the deterrent when you guys are down so big.
I mean, it's gonna always be weird, but I think that's an excuse that we can't use because you know we should be used to that by now. We went through a whole half a season last year with no fans, so it's not an excuse that we can use.
Thanks, Paul. We got time for one more. Jonathan, you can go ahead.
Hey, PG, early in the season, you know, losing like this, can you kind of use it as like, you know, a teaching moment for you and just for the guys as well, just knowing that you got to come ready to play every single day?
Absolutely. Like I said, take full responsibility, you know, of not being ready. I will be ready the next one. It's just a tough situation, like I said, coming off of being on the road on Christmas. I had my Christmas yesterday. I hope everyone enjoyed the Christmas day yesterday, and that was the reason for a sluggish day today. Early game, we just got to do better of just being prepared and being ready physically and mentally to come out and play.
Thanks, Paul. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, guys.
Paul George says he takes full responsibility. The trolling has begun from Laker Nation. Here's Magic Johnson. I've never seen anything like that before the NBA. And the Clippers are at home. Worst loss in Clipper history. Magic going in, rubbing salt into the wound of the Clippers. Isiah Thomas, Greg Anthony, Jared Greenberg. Again, we're here with you until the tip of Nets Hornets just after 7:10 Eastern. I want to go into what Paul George was saying, guys, about taking full responsibility. And listen, I think all of us understand here, it's just one game, and it is only the third game. But Isiah, go back to what you were talking about at halftime, about how this team last year never showed a sense of urgency, always saying that things will come together. We will be fine. Once we get that continuity, it'll be fine. Well, that day never came for the Clippers last year, and it seems as if a week into the season, they've got that same lackadaisical approach that, okay, bad today, we'll be good tomorrow.
Yeah, this is a group of individuals that believe in their talent. But as we talked about last week, is that their off-the-court behavior, their tendencies to be ready, to prepare, to do the little things that it takes to be a champion, the training, the extra workouts, the preparation, the mental fortitude, the mental stamina, every single day to be locked in, no days off. This is what we were wanting and waiting to see if the Clippers will come back with. Thus far, what we've seen is that they don't have that off-the-court behavior that you need to become champion. And, I'm just going to go by Paul's words when he said, hey, I enjoyed my Christmas and it caught up with me and I wasn't prepared and our team wasn't prepared. Well, when you're talking about winning a championship, your first championship, not defending, not going after a three-peat or back-to-back, but when you're trying to win your first one, every single day, every single moment is a locked-in effort of preparation, getting ready to play and compete. And if you're not doing that and you're not bringing that to the arena, you're not talking about winning a championship. You're talking about being another average NBA team in the NBA. And that's where the Clippers may find themselves if they don't change their off-the-court attitude to match their in-game play.
And I think Isiah kind of touched upon it. It's not that you get beat. It's not that you get blown out. I remember vividly the year we won 62. We lost in the seventh game of the finals. We lost back-to-back games to two teams that weren't in the playoffs by over 20 points a game. But that's a 20-point loss. We still had a lot of fight. We had scuffles in the game. I didn't even sense the level of frustration with the performance. And that's the thing that kind of struck me as odd. Typically when you're getting it handed to you, you want to react in some kind of way. You want to lash out. You want to make a statement with your effort or your play. And I just didn't see it. I was expecting them to come out in the second half and just play better.
Yeah.
Right? Just compete more. And I think Isiah, what he's saying is so on point because we're all creatures of habit. And if you get in a habit of accepting the mediocrity and not understanding what it takes to get to that level, it's not about we will get it right. You have to make it right. And you have to care enough. And I just didn't sense that group was there. Now, they are a new group. There's new coach, new system, new philosophy, but the personnel for the most part is still similar, and the leadership is definitely similar. And that's where, you want to see, okay, how they're going to respond. But, they're not a team that is creating that aura where teams are going to fear them. And so that's just going to make this journey all the more harder for them. Even though they do have talent, and Isiah said something that was great. He said, they believe in their talent, which they do, but I don't know that they believe in their team. That's a different dynamic. I think that is their problem. They believe in the talent, and they try to out-talent you as opposed to be the better team. And that's just watching how they play. We were talking during the first quarter, look at their shot quality. They don't create shots within their offense for one another. A lot of it is just go get a bucket.
Right.
And it is really hard when you get in the postseason when you don't have that kind of trust and belief in what you are and who you are. I still don't know what their identity is. They're supposed to be a great defensive team, right? They got all these individually talented defenders. That didn't necessarily pan out. Mm-hmm. And so there are more questions there. Yeah, this is one game. It's early in the season. But there's a reason why what we saw tonight we had never seen in the history of the NBA before. You got to put a little bit of weight on that. If they'd lost by 25 tonight, we see that every night in the NBA, right? That's not – to be down 50 at the half, you know how hard – that's really hard to be down 50.
Yeah.
You have to literally not be trying. And that's a psychological thing, I think. And I think they are allowing – excuses to say, I had a good Christmas, and everybody had a good Christmas. That has nothing to do with today. That Christmas 2 days ago. You should have more than been able to flip that switch to get yourself ready for a team you might want to see. You want to send messages to teams early too, because you may see Dallas in that first round. or second round potentially.
No question. Largest halftime deficit in NBA history, 50 points. Worst loss in Clipper franchise history, 51 points. Second largest victory in Mavericks history. Dallas gets its first win of the season. The Clippers, first loss of the season. They didn't have Kawhi, but this one was brutal, and that lack of fight was certainly missing from the Clippers tonight. We'll talk more about this game. I know Isiah and GA have a lot more to get off their chest on this one, but we're also getting you set for the Hornets.